Today, I just thought I would talk real quick because I keep wanting to bring up at least certain things uh, about Democrat platforms that are evil and are extremely harmful to this country. I have been planning in the works, and I may at some point release it if I can get the script tightened up enough. Script that's funny for a guy who does unscripted videos, but I generally kind of have one in my head about how to do the sexualization of children through media and through lack of discipline and rules for kids. And I have been working on that, and that may come out in some time in the future. But let's do something a little simpler. Economics. I know, it sounds funny, right? Economics are not simple. In fact, math is not my strong suit. But when you break down the national budget, you start to see why Democrats are dumb. What inspired me to do this particular video, and for me to try to do it under 15 minutes, is I was talking to somebody and I was explaining my general rhetoric that not only are Democrats evil, but centrists are in some ways worse because they co-sign and enable Democrats while deflecting any blame or responsibility for their positions from themselves. It makes centrist cowards. And one guy I encountered when I talked to him at length about his political beliefs, he was conservative in every way except for he thought universal health care was a possible thing. Do you know what we spend more than a third of the budget on every year? Social Security. How long's it been since you've heard any politician, left or right, Democrat or Republican, talk about Social Security? A long time, hasn't it been? And what's the last things you remember hearing 10, 20, 30 years ago about Social Security? It's going to fail. It's going to collapse. And yet, have you ever looked at one of your pay stubs and wondered why about 20 to 30% of your paycheck is going straight the fuck into it, and you're probably never going to see a dime from it? That's going to lead to a major economic collapse in this country. The collapse of Social Security, it's coming soon. Now, if we weren't pissing money into the wind with Social Security, you'd find out that we pay about twice as much, or almost twice as much on Social Security as we do on any other kind of welfare. You'll find that we spend a lot of things in a lot of ways you didn't expect. In fact, most popular things people want the government to spend money on, education, NASA, roads, infrastructure, that kind of thing, is usually within about 10 to 14% of the budget. And a lot of people have been told, me included, back when I was kind of a lefty, that one thing we can do to free up money for these projects is cut military spending. Well, we spend about 13% of our budget on the military, which is about 13 fucking times more than anybody else spends on their fucking military. I mean gross total, not in percentage. But that's how wealthy we are, and that's what 13% of our budget going to the military looks like. It looks like about 10 to 13 times more than anybody else. Anybody else, even China. Now, we spend way more than that, more than twice as much on that, on welfare. Now, foreign aid is about 20% of the budget, and foreign aid is mostly paying for the military of other fucking countries, like Israel, like NATO, basically paying for the entirety of Europe to be safe from the encroachment of Russia. And despite his rhetoric that I would have supported, Donald Trump saying, hey, if we make some of these fucking European nations pay for fucking NATO, like they make us do for them, we'd have a lot of extra money to spend on other shit. And everyone's like, oh, you fucking Russian collaborator. We spend more on NATO than we spend on any fucking shit you like. We spend way more on NATO than we spend on education or NASA or science and development or grants or any of that shit. And that's one thing. Did you know we give $12 million per day, every day, Monday through fucking Sunday, 365 days a year, every year, $12 million a day to the state of Israel alone. What could your state, could your community, your region, what do you think this country could do with $12 million a day for Israel to use to bomb UN hospitals and blow Palestinian children into smithereens? Just one example. What do you think you could do with $40 billion a year? You couldn't pay for universal health care, I'll tell you that. Universal health care would cost a gargantuan fortune. And keep in mind, folks, go live somewhere where the DHS is, like in Britain or fucking whatever the equivalent is in Australia and shit. Now, maybe you can go in and pick up some cold medication and shit and some antibiotics for a lot cheaper. And maybe you won't ever get stuck with a bad bill for, say, breaking your arm or something. But say you need diagnostic procedures. Say you need a colonoscopy. Say you need an upper endoscopy, which is where they send the camera tube down your throat. I had one of those as a teenager, and I got it less than 2 weeks after it was scheduled. You think you're going to get it anytime close to when you scheduled it? When you're in one of these socialized healthcare countries, keep in mind, especially in Great Britain, they're not just first come, first serve, get in line. They favor non-white residents over white residents in the lines. And whether it's a line for you to get some sort of outpatient procedure, which that line is usually extremely long because it's considered non-life-threatening and therefore non-important. Even cancer biopsies go well behind transplants and other surgeries and all sorts of other shit. Now, and when the doctor is getting paid the same, whether you're nice to treat or not, how well do you think their standard of care is at all in any of this? Now, keep in mind, they can barely keep the budget together for this shit in Great Britain, which is a fairly wealthy country with a fraction of the fucking population of the United States. You think federally we could do single-payer universal health care here when we're busy pissing almost all of our money into fucking Social Security so that it can be wasted? Do you think the government that has thought up such dreams as a black hole that eats a third of the budget every year in perpetuity until that black hole collapses and explodes, do you think you want a government like that running your healthcare? Or would you prefer to, I don't know, pay for insurance? Or if you're a healthy individual and you don't hardly ever go to the hospital and don't hardly ever go to sick and don't feel like paying for health insurance at all, how do you like, doing that instead of taxed for not paying for it under Obama's fucking system? How much do you want to fucking do that shit? This is all fucking stupid. But nobody thinks about these things. They just think money grows on trees. Well, here's one of the greatest lies of all time. The concept of the single payer. The government does not have money, folks. The government does not make money, folks. The government takes your money and appropriates it and spends it how it sees fit, which is usually on stupid bullshit. The government should never be trusted to use your money. And it's not because, you'd be better off taking care of your own money and exercising your freedom. And if you feel like giving to charity, doing it. And charity, by the way, usually does a fuck of a lot better social outreach and helping the poor than any government program ever does. That's a fact. And they don't get taxed for it. That's a fact. I used to volunteer my time at food banks all the time. I used to take advantage of food banks as a young kid when my family wasn't doing very well. Worthwhile projects. Definitely does a lot more than throwing about a bunch of EBT cards that people misuse anyways. Now, basically, that is just one facet of how the Democrats are wrong about everything when it comes to the economy. They think money grows on trees and that it can be thrown at whatever they want. And they think that if they can't get enough money to appropriate how they see fit, they will go straight after the rich and tax the shit out of them. And what does the rich do? The rich says, we love your gay rights. The rich says, we love that you're genderqueer. The rich says our corporation's gonna make a video of a little boy dancing around in a dress and an interracial couple with a mixed baby. We're gonna do everything to signal to you progressives that we are progressive. But even though we're obviously an American company and most of our offices are either in New York or California or some other major center, maybe Florida now, that a lot of major businesses and even major banks are fleeing New York City to come to Florida because New York City is a Democrat-run shithole. These maybe some of these people would realize that the rich of these sorry, I lost my train of thought, but the rich of these corporations, yeah, most of their business is here, most of their customer base is here, but if you look up where they're headquarters in, they're headquartered in Dublin, Ireland, or in Barbados, or in somewhere else with a 0% corporate tax rate. So they'll spend all sorts of money to tell you that they love you because you're gay, and they love you because you're genderqueer, and they love you because you're progressive, and they love you because you're racially conscious and woke. But will they pay into the system that you're voting about every 4 years? The answer is no. And the reason why is because the government wants to tax more money to spend it on stupid fucking bullshit. And since that doesn't work and doesn't ever get them there, they want to tax more money. And first of all, the poor can't foot the bill. And the middle class has been stepped on so fucking hard for 30 years that they're shifting red faster than Democrats can rush brown people in from Haiti and Africa and Mexico and South America. So the only thing they could do is say, we're going to target the rich. And the rich says, we'll leave. Fuck you. There's no free lunch. There's no free lunch. Money doesn't grow on trees. Magic isn't real, you stupid fuck. If you vote Democrat, you're an idiot. If you're a centrist, you are not educated on the fact that everything leftist is not only evil, it is fucking stupid. And not only is it fucking stupid, it's goddamn evil. And again, centrists are stupid. And they're stupider than commies, because commies at least looked into and studied bullshit lies and propaganda and bought in. Republicans studied objective fact, applied math, and actually learned something like cause and effect, and learned that there are consequences to every action, and are therefore marginally less fucking retarded than Democrats. Not saying that Republicans are saints or they're great or that I fucking feel like buying the t-shirt, because they're not. Republicans are right some of the time. Democrats are never right. And there are people in charge that are responsible for Democrats believing all these asinine, stupid things. And these people know that what they are telling Democrats are lies. Same as my previous video, where I was talking about how Democrats are trying to say that Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican governor of Florida, is a fascist looking to attack the country because he's amassing an army. No, he's reactivating the Florida National Guard. I did a list of all these states that have National Guards, most of which are Democrat states. Did a whole video on that just earlier. Check it out. Use your brain. Read a fucking book.